Hey there everybody, Paolo here, and welcome back. Today we're going to be doing a little Let's Look at Pandora First Contact. Pandora First Contact is, well, let's just call it what it is. This is a love child, or spiritual successor, wannabe Alpha Centauri. For those of you that don't know, Alpha Centauri was a spin-off or a sister program along Civilization. I believe it came out around Civilization 2, and it took the Civilization formula and moved it to outer space. Instead of conquering Earth and dealing with other Earthen tribes and civilizations, you are starting over new on this alien world, and you need to survive. So you're dealing with future technologies and all of that. You're dealing with hostile aliens that are going to be trying to fight you and everything, and it was really, really good. However, Alpha Centauri came out back in 1999, so we're coming around on 15 years without seeing a new Alpha Centauri. Now, full disclosure, we are looking at what is likely Alpha Centauri 2. They can't call it that way, but there is Civilization Beyond Earth coming out, I believe in October or November of this year. And for all intents and purposes, it is Alpha Centauri 2. They just don't have rights to the name because EA owns the name, and they're not with EA anymore. Anyway, none of that matters to this. Pandora First Contact is a 4X strategy game where you are bringing your group of people, your race of people, to this alien world to start over after the destruction of your home world. And there are 6 civilizations all coming in here to try and survive and compete and gain control of this new world. Very much like Alpha Centauri, the first half of the game is focused on basically surviving this hostile world. You have a world with aliens that don't like you being there, that are far more powerful than any of your units early on, that until you can get some real technology going and some heavy research going and some production, you're going to be defending, you're going to be trying to hold out and everything. And then the game will slowly progress to the point where finally you've conquered and you've terraformed the planet, and then it turns more into your traditional Civilization style game where it's you and these other civilizations competing to see who is going to control the planet. And it does this in surprisingly well done, well put together game. It's not by any means a perfect game. It's a little light on some of the features, but it is thoroughly enjoyable, and it is available at a $30 price tag, which makes it something very much worth considering if you are a 4X strategy fan or a Civilization fan in general. Go ahead and we'll jump through some gameplay here. So early on here, we're going to be starting off with, this is about 8 or 10 turns in. I have 1 city, I have 2 basic trooper units, and that's about it. I'm in the process of trying to get a few things up and running. And what you want really looking at here is just the world that we are on. So you're going to notice it's going to look very familiar if you're used to Civilization. It's going to be a hex-based tile system. You place down your city, and then as you expand out on your city, you're going to go ahead and you can claim down, as your city gains influence, certain resources are placed on tiles around your city that you can claim down, that you can build on. And you're going to get these construction units that can automatically build these units and everything and get things going. And that's what this little construction guy down here is doing. He's probably putting down a farm right there for food. All of this is going to be very, very familiar. What's not familiar is like these aliens down here, these bugs. Now, when you first start off the game, as I said, they tend to be more powerful than you. The game is smart enough that it gives you about 15 turns or so before these bugs become hostile. But about 15 or 20 turns in, they're going to get very angry as your city starts to expand, as you maybe start to put down a second city, and they're going to want to get rid of you. And that's where the first real change comes from. That early game, at least in my opinion, the early game of Pandora First Contact is far more entertaining, far more engaging than your average Civilization game. So you have to go ahead and you have to get some research going, you have to get some units out, you have to get some defensive positions together, and you may even want to focus early on building defensive structures within your city in order to make it easier to defend, which is something, at least in my playthrough of Civilization, I don't tend to look at defensive structures until well into the game when I basically have nothing else to build. So if we look around here, you'll see there's kind of these nests. There's a nest in the upper right-hand side here, and there's a nest down below. So these are what you would consider the barbarian huts or villages from Civilization. These are where barbarians can actually be generated from, well, xenomorphs in this case. And there are quite a few different types. And if we can clear out all of these around our city, they will give us a pretty good safe spot to work with. And so that's normally going to be your first thing you want to do. However, these are fairly well defended. This goes back more to the Civilization 4 type formula, where you can actually stack units. So on some of these nests, there's 3, 4, 5 units stacked together, like a queen and normally like 3 base soldier units and everything. So we're going to need to get together some forces before we do that. Beyond the nests and everything, we also have these kind of mushroom areas. You'll see these purplish mushroom hexes. The best way I can describe this is if you've played Command and Conquer, I believe it was the Red Alert ones, the ones with the Tiberium. Think of this as Tiberium. Your troops can cross it, but anytime they are spent within these mushrooms, they will take some damage. So you have like these hurtful zones that you got to be careful around your city. In time, with some technology, you can actually research a way that your formers or your construction units can go ahead and can clear this up and make for a decent area for you to work with and expand your city into. They can also convert some of it into minerals, I believe, which is quite nice. Beyond that, the game, though, is going to be very familiar to anybody that's played Civilization. You're going to have your city. Your city's going to generate, depending on the structures you put into it, a certain amount of research, a certain amount of food, population growth, and if you have enough food plus population growth, you're going to expand your area of influence, and so forth. Now, it does do some neat little things that mix it up and make it a little fresh for itself. For example, under the technology tree here, the research tree, there are at least 3 different eras. I believe there's a 4th one. I've never gotten far enough into the game to see that. I currently have about 6 hours logged into the game at this point. But basically, you start off in this colonial area, or colonization area, not colonial, colonization area, which will then move into a mechanization era, and then will move into, I believe, a nanite era, and then I think there's a 4th one further out. Well, the interesting thing that they have done is within the colonization area, I can say colonization, not colonialization, whatever. Within the colonization era, the technologies in this subsection, so say these 40 technologies or so, can randomly occur within this tech tree anywhere. Each time you play the game again, your tech tree is going to look slightly different. Now, there are certain ones that are always going to follow a certain order. For example, there's a tank you can get. The tank is always going to come after the ATV. So first you research the light vehicle, then you're going to get the heavy vehicle. You're always going to start off with the tier 1 armor and then get to the tier 2 armor. But a lot of the other technologies, the ones that allow you to put down different farms or mine up the crystals and stuff, these will randomly occur in whatever order the game decides, just randomly at the beginning of the play session. So each time you play the game, your technology is going to unfold differently, which means your city is going to unfold differently, and you're going to have to adapt your play style a little bit for the new technologies, which is quite neat. Something else that we can do with these technologies is down here under the workshop button, you can actually take your technologies that you've put together and you can kind of create your own unique units. Now, this doesn't go very deep. This is about as mild as it can get for still creating your own units. But basically, you have the different chassis that you've researched, either the construction unit, the colony, the new city unit, the troopers, the ATVs or whatever. And then you can give them whatever weapon you want, whatever armor you want, and then a certain device. Currently, we don't have any devices secured or anything. But you can go through and you can build out your own type of armies. For the most part, this all progresses very linearly. You know, Tech 1 armor is going to be worse than Tech 2 armor, which is going to be worse than Tech 3 armor. However, a trooper that is wearing Tech 3 armor is going to cost more and take longer to produce than one wearing Tech 1 armor. There are some slight variations to that. For example, you can get like a flamethrower. A flamethrower against biological units, so against like the xenomorphs here, is very, very strong, but it does basically nothing against air or mechanized. The machine gun is moderately good against everything, whereas the rocket launcher is very good against mechanized but does nothing against infantry and biological. So, for certain things, you are going to have different loadouts, different build-outs, depending on who you're playing against, what you're going up against, the type of army they have. It's a nice little feature that could have been fleshed out a little bit more, I think, by having like primary weapon, secondary weapon, and maybe an additional ability slot or something. I think that would have added a little more depth to it. As it is, it's basically, alright, I want this guy with machine gun, this guy with sniper rifle, this guy with flamethrower. Go. It's okay. We're going to go ahead, let's jump up to late game now. We'll just take a look at some of this late going on here. And this part is, one moment, apologize for that, a little bit of phlegm. So, here we are about 80, maybe 100 turns into the game. This is the furthest I've made it. And at this point, I've pretty much gone ahead and conquered the world around me. We're at the point where we're not worried about any type of the xenomorphs or anything. Our troopers are all very strong. In fact, I have some very, very powerful walking mech units here. And I've been using these things to beat the crap out of this red faction. The red faction and I got into it a little while back, and I actually ended up taking over all their cities here on my primary continent. However, they unfortunately have much more mobile army than I do. While they can't beat me in a fight, they just keep flanking around me and capturing things behind me. They're backcapping me, which is a little annoying, but I'll eventually wear them down. I'm catching them here or there, which is quite nice. So you can see here, we've kind of basically expanded to where we are covering almost the entire planet with all the different factions and everything. In fact, even out on the far sides there, it's mostly been covered. And at this point, the game very much turns into your traditional civilization game, where you're going to want to set up allies with certain factions, you're going to want to go to war with other factions, you're going to have to do some trading here or there. And here's where the game kind of falls apart a little bit. It's unfair to really judge this game against Civilization, but it has to go up against Civilization. And in terms of some of the late game features, the options for diplomacy, the options for trade, all of those things are pretty darn light. They're about as minimalistic as you can actually get. Under diplomacy, you have like 6 different options. You have the option in order to set up a trade route, set up a research pact, demand payments, declare war, and like 3 others. It's pretty pathetic, really. In terms of the economy, there is kind of a global economy system where there is food and minerals both for sale and that you can sell on. The food is obviously used for feeding your people. The minerals are your production material, basically. Rather than follow the civilization route where based on your technology you have a certain material to create, so knights might require a certain amount of steel, whereas pikemen might require a certain amount of bronze or whatever. No, in this game everything is done with these crystals. So as long as you have crystals, you can continue to produce items, produce units and everything. And at least for my current playthrough, I have tons of crystals, not a lot of food. So basically I can sell crystals to get money, which I can then turn around and buy food with, or vice versa. It works, but it's kind of bare minimum. A little disappointing there. Other than that, though, if you like Civilization, you'll probably really like Pandora. It's not going to blow you away. It doesn't do anything amazingly well, but it's a nice change of pace over Civilization, especially for those that have been waiting for Alpha Centauri for 13, 14 years now. And this, I think, could be a good holdover game until we get Beyond Earth to come out. There's a few other things that should be noted. Oh, they did a very neat job with the map. I will give them this. So the map not only scrolls from left to right, you can't just circle the globe left to right, you can also circle the globe north to south. There's no impassable ice caps, polar ice caps at the top, so you can just take your troops and like travel south and end up coming around on the north side of the enemies and everything. That's a little thing that I quite liked. I found that to be very, very nice. It made for some interesting troop movements. In fact, I got invaded out of nowhere because I didn't see them coming. They completely blindsided me. There was also a very interesting event that occurred. And I don't know if this event happens every time or if it's a random thing, but about 70 turns into it. At that point, I was in a pretty heavy battle with the red. I'm sorry, not the red, the yellows. And we were going back and forth, and there was this cutscene where this alien fleet or something invaded the planet we were on. And out of nowhere, suddenly there was just all of these massive alien walkers, these mechanized robots that were far more powerful than anything any of us on the planet actually had. And basically, it threw everything in a complete loop. I had to make quick truce with the people I were fighting, and what we were a faction that I was fighting 2 turns ago suddenly were allied together trying to stop this invasion, stop these massive alien fleets and everything, and we eventually did. But that was very well done. It was extremely interesting, and I'm hoping to see that they did some more things like that, as it really threw the whole game for a loop. There were enemies, allies, cats and dogs helping each other out, all kinds of craziness. That was really good. At the end of the day, as a big 4X strategy fan, as a big Civilization fan, I've been really liking Pandora. It's a little pricey at $30, especially knowing that we're going to probably be seeing Civilization for $60 here in about 3 months. Civilization Beyond Earth. And this is almost definitely not going to have the polish that the new Civilization game will. But for those fans of this type of genre out there that have been looking for that Alpha Centauri experience and we haven't been able to get it, I highly recommend you go ahead and you take a look at it. Again, this is Pandora First Contact. If you're borderline about it, put it on your wish list. I'm sure it'll go on sale for fairly cheap here once the new Sid Meier game come out, and you'll be able to get it for sub $10. At that point, it's a definite must buy in my opinion. Alright, well there we have it. This has been Paler. One other note, I'm trying a new format to keep these videos shorter. I'm going to try to keep them under 20 minutes. If you like this new format or not, let me know in the comments so I know how to adjust accordingly. But till then, though, this has been Paler. Thanks for watching.